The crystalline spires of Zephyria Prime caught the light of 3 moons, sending rainbow fractals dancing across the planet's surface. In the Grand Archive, Elder Lyra's translucent form pulsed with waves of deep indigo, a color that, among her people, signified profound distress. The Void Hunters had destroyed another colony world, and the images transmitted back to Zephyria Prime told a story of methodical extinction. The Zephyrians were beings of pure crystal and light, ancient custodians of knowledge who had spent millennia perfecting the art of peaceful coexistence. Their bodies resonated with the emotional energies of those around them, making them natural diplomats and healers. But now, that very sensitivity had become their greatest weakness. The Void Hunters, with their entropy-based weapons, didn't just kill Zephyrians. They shattered their very essence, dispersing the light of consciousness into the cold void of space. The outer colonies have fallen. Lyra's voice chimed like wind through crystal chimes, addressing the Council of Light. 17 billion lights, extinguished. The Void Hunters do not seek resources or territory. They seek only our extinction. The chamber hummed with the collective grief of the assembled elders, their crystalline forms dimming in shared mourning. Deep in the secure chambers beneath the archive, a different conversation was taking place. Commander Ven, head of what passed for Zephyrian Defense Forces, interfaced with the quantum communications array. Unlike most of his kind, Ven's crystal structure had subtle imperfections, microscopic fractures from his studies of conflict, something most Zephyrians found distasteful. But those imperfections had given him an understanding his people desperately needed now. "We have no choice." Ven's voice resonated through the chamber. "The legends speak of them. The ones who emerged from a world that should have killed them. The species that turned death itself into a tool for survival." His form pulsed with determination. "We must contact the humans." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The council chamber erupted in a cascade of discordant frequencies, the Zephyrian equivalent of shocked protests. Elder Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "The Deathworlders. They are dangerous, unpredictable. Their very nature is antithetical to our own." "Precisely," Ven replied, his crystalline structure vibrating with conviction. "The Void Hunters destroy us because we cannot comprehend their violence. But humans understand violence intimately, yet they choose peace. They build while maintaining the ability to destroy. They protect while knowing how to kill." In the silence that followed, the council could feel the weight of their civilization's future pressing down upon them. The Void Hunters' fleet would reach Zephyria Prime in less than a standard cycle. Their entropy weapons would reduce the crystal cities to dust, extinguishing billions of consciousness lights in an instant. Elder Lyra approached the quantum array, her form now pulsing with a rare color, the deep red of desperate resolve. "Send the call," she commanded, "but not just any call. They must understand what we face. Show them everything." The quantum array hummed to life, and Ven began the transmission. Into the depths of space went not just words, but the full sensory experience of a Zephyrian colony's death. The horror of watching crystal bodies shatter, the feeling of consciousness light being torn apart, the desperate attempts at peaceful resolution met with cold silence. And finally, a simple message that would reach Earth's Deep Space Command. "To the guardians of the Death World, we who cherish peace now beg for war. The Void Hunters come to shatter our light. Help us survive." As the message shot through quantum space toward Earth, Ven turned to Elder Lyra. "Will they come?" The Elder's form shimmered with uncertainty. "They are human. They might see us as too alien, too different to risk their lives for." "No," Ven responded, his fractured crystal structure catching the light in unusual ways. "I have studied them. Humans have a curious trait. The more different and vulnerable something is, the more fiercely they protect it. They call it precious, and nothing in their eyes is more precious than a peaceful species facing extinction." Above them, in the crystal spires of the Grand Archive, the 3 moons of Zephyria Prime continued their eternal dance, unaware that the fate of their children now rested in the hands of beings who had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. Beings who had turned that endless struggle into a strength that the galaxy was about to witness firsthand. The quantum array pulsed one final time, confirming the message's receipt. Somewhere in the deep space monitoring stations orbiting Earth, alarms were about to sound. And humanity would face a choice: ignore the plea of an alien race that represented everything they were not, or prove that the term Deathworlder meant not just the ability to survive, but the power to ensure the survival of others. The crystal cities waited in silence, their light dimming with each passing moment. As the Void Hunters drew ever closer, help was coming, or it wasn't. But for the first time since the invasion began, there was something new resonating through the crystalline forms of the Zephyrians. Hope. Deep Space Command wasn't what most people expected. Instead of a sterile military facility, it occupied an underground complex beneath the Rocky Mountains, its walls adorned with ancient NASA mission patches and quotes from humanity's first steps into space. Commander Sarah Chen stood before the quantum display, watching the Zephyrian message play for the third time. The crystalline being's death screams resonated through the chamber, their final moments captured in brutal clarity by the quantum transmission. Sarah's knuckles whitened as she gripped the console. 20 years in deep space ops had hardened her to many things, but this was different. This wasn't just death, it was extinction. The Joint Chiefs have approved Operation Shatterproof, Admiral Rise announced, his weathered face appearing on the main screen. You'll have command of the Rapid Response Fleet. The DSV Phantom is being prepped as we speak. Sarah nodded, already running calculations in her head. The Zephyrians are 12 light-years out, but with the new quantum drives. You'll get there in time, Rise interrupted. But Chen, this isn't a standard intervention. These Void Hunters, their tech is unlike anything we've encountered. And the Zephyrians. He paused, choosing his words carefully. They're about as different from us as any species could be. Sarah's dark eyes flickered with determination. With respect, sir, that's exactly why we have to help them. Humanity didn't claw its way out of Earth's gravity well to stand by while peaceful species are exterminated. 6 hours later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the DSV Phantom, watching as her crew made final preparations. The ship was humanity's latest achievement, a destroyer-class vessel that combined brutal efficiency with elegant design. Like its crew, it represented the dual nature of human innovation, the ability to create beauty while preparing for war. All systems go, Commander, Lieutenant Maya Patel reported from the tactical station. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, bringing the quantum drive online. The rest of the fleet is in formation. We're ready to make the jump. Sarah took a moment to study her bridge crew. They were the best Earth had to offer, not just in skill, but in understanding what it meant to be human. Dr. James Cooper, their xenobiologist who spent his free time breeding endangered butterflies. Chief Engineer Zhao Wei, who could recite ancient poetry while calibrating weapon systems. They were warriors and scholars, killers and protectors. Listen up, Sarah addressed the crew, her voice carrying through the ship's comm system. What you're about to see in the quantum replay is going to make you angry. It's supposed to. The Void Hunters are committing genocide against a species that never developed weapons because they never needed them. They're killing beings who experience the universe in ways we can barely comprehend. She paused, letting that sink in. But remember this, we're not going in as revenge seekers. We're going as guardians. The Zephyrians call us Deathworlders. And they're right. Earth tried to kill us every day of our evolution, and instead of breaking, we learned. We learned how to survive, how to fight, and most importantly, how to protect. That's what we're going to do. The quantum drive hummed to life, its energy spreading through the ship like liquid lightning. Sarah felt the familiar tingle in her bones as space-time began to fold around them. Tactical status of the Void Hunter fleet. 27 capital ships detected near the Zephyrian home system, Maya reported. Their entropy weapons are unlike anything in our database, but we've analyzed their energy signatures. They have weaknesses. They always do, Sarah muttered. She thought of the crystal cities she'd seen in the transmission, of the beings of light and peace who had reached out to humanity in their darkest hour. Navigation, plot the quantum jump. Weapons, power up the kinetic strike systems. Medical, prep for crystalline-based triage. We're about to show the galaxy why Earth's children never walk alone. The fleet of Earth ships hung in formation, their dark hulls absorbing starlight. They were beautiful in their deadliness, the product of a species that had turned survival into an art form. As the quantum countdown began, Sarah sent a brief message back to Earth. Operation Shatterproof commencing. We carry with us the weight of 2 worlds now. Chen out. The quantum drive reached full power, and reality itself seemed to hold its breath. In the last moment before the jump, Sarah thought she could almost feel the resonance of the Zephyrian crystals, their light dimming as the Void Hunters approached. But not for much longer. Earth's children were coming, bringing with them everything that their harsh world had taught them. The stars blurred, and humanity went to war. The quantum jump ended with a flash of reality-twisted light, and the DSV Phantom materialized in the Zephyrian home system alongside its battle group. The sight that greeted them was both beautiful and terrifying. Zephyria Prime hung in space like a massive diamond, its crystalline cities refracting starlight in complex patterns. And approaching it, like a cloud of cosmic locusts, was the Void Hunter fleet. Multiple entropy weapon signatures detected. Maya called out from tactical, her voice tight with controlled tension. They're charging up for a planetary bombardment. Sarah Chen's eyes narrowed as she assessed the situation. The Void Hunter ships were organic-looking things, all curved edges and pulsing energy nodes. They were built for a single purpose: to shatter worlds. Deploy the quantum shield network. I want those entropy weapons contained when they fire. Through the main viewport, Sarah watched as hundreds of small satellites emerged from the Earth fleet's launch bays, quickly forming a web of interconnected energy fields around Zephyria Prime. It was humanity's latest defense technology, designed to redirect and absorb even the most exotic forms of energy. Void Hunter fleet is responding to our presence, Chief Engineer Zhao reported, his hands flying over his console. They're laughing at us. The translation matrix is picking up signals of amusement. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. They weren't the first to underestimate humans, and they wouldn't be the last. Open a channel to Commander Ven. The quantum comms sparked to life, and a crystalline form of the Zephyrian commander appeared on screen. His structure seemed to pulse with both hope and fear. The Deathworlders, you actually came. We did more than come, Sarah replied. We brought an end to your nightmare. Commander Ven, I need your people to synchronize their crystalline resonance with our quantum shield network. Can you do that? Ven's form flickered with surprise. You studied our biology, adapted your technology to work with our crystalline nature. Dr. Cooper's been analyzing your quantum transmission since the moment we received it, Sarah explained. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to fight. It's our ability to understand, adapt, and overcome. The first Void Hunter strike came without warning. A massive pulse of entropy energy lashed out toward the planet, designed to shatter every crystal structure it touched. But when it hit the quantum shield network, something unexpected happened. The Zephyrian synchronized resonance combined with human technology created a feedback loop, turning the entropy weapon's energy back on itself. 3 Void Hunter ships disappeared in explosions of twisted space-time. They're regrouping, Maya announced. New formation. They're trying to concentrate their fire on a single point. Sarah's mind raced through combat scenarios, decades of training combining with pure human instinct. Zhao, divert power to the kinetic strike systems. Maya, calculate firing solutions for maximum dispersal. Dr. Cooper, work with Commander Ven to modulate the crystal resonance. I want their next shot to hurt them even more than the first. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The Void Hunters, confident in their superior technology, found themselves facing an enemy that turned their own weapons against them. Human ships danced through their formation, kinetic rounds tearing through organic hull material while quantum shields absorbed and reflected entropy blasts. But it was the combination of human and Zephyrian capabilities that truly turned the tide. The crystalline cities of Zephyria Prime began to pulse in perfect harmony, their resonance amplified by human quantum technology. Each entropy blast meant for destruction was caught in a web of energy, redirected, amplified, and sent back at the attackers. Their breaking formation, Maya reported, a note of fierce satisfaction in her voice. Multiple ships showing critical damage. Their entropy core containment is failing. Sarah watched as the mighty Void Hunter fleet, which had terrorized peaceful species across the galaxy, began to crumble before the combined might of human determination and Zephyrian harmony. Send them a message, she ordered, in all frequencies, all languages. She stood from her command chair, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's legacy. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. You came to this system believing you found easy prey. Instead, you found humanity's line in the sand. The Zephyrians are under our protection now. Retreat or be destroyed. This is your only warning. The response came in the form of a desperate, massive entropy blast, the Void Hunters' final attempt to complete their mission. The combined human Zephyrian defense network caught it, transformed it, and sent it cascading through the enemy fleet. Ships began to break apart, their organic hulls unable to handle their own weaponry turned against them. They're running, Zhao announced quietly. The remaining Void Hunter ships were engaging their drive systems, fleeing from the power they had awakened. On the surface of Zephyria Prime, billions of crystalline beings pulsed with colors never before seen in their history. The joy of survival mixed with awe at the nature of their saviors. The Deathworlders had not just brought destruction to their enemies, they had brought understanding, adaptation, and protection to their friends. Commander Ven's form shimmered with a new resonance as he addressed Sarah. We called you Deathworlders, but perhaps we should have called you Lifebringers. Sarah looked out at the retreating enemy fleet, then at the shimmering crystal world they had saved. We're both, she replied softly. That's what humanity is, the species that learned to create life in the shadow of death. And we will always, always protect those who choose peace. The battle was over, but its impact was just beginning to ripple through the galaxy. The legend of the Crystal Falls, where humanity's steel met Zephyrian stardust, would become a testament to what was possible when the harsh lessons of a death world were turned toward preservation instead of destruction. In the days following the Battle of Crystal Falls, the crystalline spires of Zephyria Prime hummed with new frequencies. The Zephyrians, beings of pure light and resonance, found themselves trying to comprehend the paradox that had saved them. Humans, creatures born of violence who chose to use that violence in defense of peace. Dr. James Cooper stood in the Grand Archive, his environmental suit's sensors struggling to process the kaleidoscope of colors flowing through the crystalline walls. Elder Lyra's form shimmered before him, her structure now containing tiny fractures from the battle, imperfections that, surprisingly, made her resonance even more complex and beautiful. Your people risked everything for us, Lyra's voice chimed. Yet you say this is normal for humans. Cooper smiled behind his suit's faceplate. We have a saying on Earth, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. It's written in our history, paid for in blood and tears. We learned it the hard way. Throughout the Crystal City, similar conversations were taking place. Chief Engineer Zhao found himself surrounded by young Zephyrians, their forms pulsing with curiosity as he explained how humans had adapted their quantum shields to work with crystalline resonance. Innovation, he told them, comes from necessity. Earth taught us that every problem has a solution. You just have to be willing to think differently. On the bridge of the DSV Phantom, still in orbit around Zephyria Prime, Commander Sarah Chen reviewed the after-action reports with Commander Ven. The Zephyrian's form had changed since the battle, his natural fractures now aligned in patterns that reminded Sarah of battle scars. The Void Hunters have sent transmissions to other aggressive species, Ven reported, his tone carrying new harmonics of strength. They speak of humans as aberrations, creatures that should be weak because they feel compassion, yet are strong because of it. Sarah leaned back in her command chair, considering this. They don't understand that compassion isn't weakness. It's the reason we fight so hard. When you care about something, truly care about it, you find strength you never knew you had. The quantum sensors picked up something new, ships approaching from multiple systems. But these weren't hostile vessels. They were diplomatic ships from other peaceful species, drawn by the news of what had happened at Crystal Falls. The galaxy was about to change. Lieutenant Maya Patel's voice carried a note of awe as she reported the incoming signals. Sir, they're all asking the same question. How did the humans do it? How did they merge protection with peace? In the depths of the Grand Archive, Elder Lyra and Dr. Cooper had moved to a chamber filled with historical records. The walls pulsed with the stored memories of countless generations of Zephyrians. We always saw violence as a failure, Lyra admitted. We never understood that it could be used as a shield rather than a sword. Cooper reached out, his hand hovering near a crystalline surface that showed Earth's first contact with the galaxy. Humans learned something important on our death world, he explained. Life itself is violent. Stars explode to create new elements. Planets collide to form new worlds. Even peace must sometimes be defended with force. The trick is knowing when to fight and when to create. Above them, in orbit, the DSV Phantom sensors detected the last remnants of the Void Hunters' entropy weapons dissipating into space. The combined human-Zephyrian defense network had not just defeated the weapons, it had transformed them, turning destruction into a new form of energy that now strengthened the planetary shields. Commander Ven, studying these readings with Sarah, pulsed with a revelation. This is what you meant by adaptation. You didn't just help us survive. You showed us how to turn our greatest threat into a source of protection. Sarah nodded. That's the real lesson of Earth. Everything that tried to kill us became a teacher. Every challenge made us stronger. Not because we were naturally tough, but because we refused to accept that anything was impossible. The story of Crystal Falls spread quickly through the galaxy, but it wasn't just a tale of military victory. It became a lesson in the true nature of strength. The Zephyrians, once seen as fragile beings of pure peace, had learned that protection didn't corrupt their nature. It completed it. And humanity, often feared for their death world origins, showed the galaxy that their greatest power lay not in their capacity for violence, but in their choice to use that capacity in defense of others. In the Crystal Cities, new harmonics began to emerge. The Zephyrians started incorporating elements of human music into their resonance patterns, not the peaceful melodies they had always known, but complex symphonies that spoke of both struggle and triumph. They remained beings of peace, but now they understood that peace wasn't the absence of conflict. It was the wisdom to know how to face it. One standard galactic year after the Battle of Crystal Falls, Zephyria Prime hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 50 peaceful species converged on the Crystal Cities, their ships hanging in orbit alongside vessels of the Earth Defense Fleet. The Grand Archive, once a simple repository of knowledge, had evolved into something new, the first Galactic Center for Adaptive Defense. Commander Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood at the center of the Archive's main chamber, her environmental suit modified to allow her own bioelectric field to resonate with the crystalline structures around her. Next to her, Elder Lyra and Commander Ven, pulsed with colors that the human eye could barely comprehend, the complex harmonics of a species that had learned to merge peace with protection. The galaxy is changing, Sarah addressed the assembled representatives, her voice carried through both traditional communications and crystal resonance. For too long, we divided ourselves into simple categories: peaceful or violent, protective or aggressive, Deathworlders or Paradise-born. The Battle of Crystal Falls showed us that these distinctions were always false. Above them, through the Crystal Dome, the combined fleet demonstrated the new defense technologies born from human-Zephyrian cooperation. Quantum shields flickered with crystalline energy, while modified entropy weapons, now turned to peaceful purposes, helped stabilize the orbits of damaged planets throughout the sector. Dr. Cooper, his research team now including young Zephyrians eager to learn human scientific methods, presented their findings. The crystals that make up Zephyrian bodies don't just store light and knowledge, he explained. They store potential. When we learned to merge our quantum technology with their natural resonance, we discovered something extraordinary: the ability to transform destructive energy into protective force. The implications were staggering. Throughout the galaxy, peaceful species that had lived in fear of aggressive civilizations were learning that they didn't have to choose between maintaining their principles and protecting their people. The Zephyrians led the way, teaching others how to adapt without losing themselves. Chief Engineer Zhao, working with a team of crystal artisans, had developed new forms of terraforming technology. By combining human ingenuity with Zephyrian harmony, he demonstrated, we can heal worlds that were once thought forever damaged by war. The very weapons that were meant to destroy us now help us create. But perhaps the most profound change was visible in the Void Hunters themselves. The surviving ships, after their defeat at Crystal Falls, had spread word of a power they couldn't comprehend. Beings who could have destroyed them but chose instead to show mercy. A few of their younger members had even defected, seeking to understand this strange new philosophy that turned the power of death into a force for life. Lieutenant Maya Patel, now captain of her own ship, reported increasing numbers of former aggressive species requesting admission to the defense center. They come to learn, she told Sarah, not just how to fight, but when not to fight. The Zephyrians teach them harmony, while we teach them the responsibility that comes with power. In the heart of the Grand Archive, a new chamber had been created. Its crystalline walls pulsed with the combined history of Earth and Zephyria Prime. Two worlds that could not have been more different, yet whose partnership had changed the course of galactic history. Here, students from across the galaxy came to learn what the humans called the paradox of protection, and the Zephyrians named the harmony of opposition. Commander Ven, his crystalline form now permanently altered by his experiences with humans, had become a teacher of this new philosophy. Our peaceful nature was not a weakness, he would tell his students, but it was incomplete. Just as humans learned that their strength was meaningless without compassion, we learned that our peace was meaningless without the power to preserve it. As the galactic year drew to a close, Sarah stood at a viewport on the DSV Phantom, watching the lights of the crystal cities below. The ship's quantum comm system hummed with messages from across the galaxy, reports of former enemies becoming allies, of peaceful species learning to protect themselves while maintaining their principles, of a new kind of civilization emerging from the synthesis of strength and harmony. Elder Lyra's voice chimed through the crystal resonance network. We called you Deathworlders, and we were right. But we never understood what that truly meant. You didn't just survive death, you learned from it. And in teaching us those lessons, you helped us all evolve. Sarah smiled, remembering the desperate call that had started it all. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy, she replied. Not our strength or our technology, but our understanding that peace isn't a state of being. It's a choice you make every day. A choice worth fighting for. In the space around Zephyria Prime, ships of 100 designs moved in complex patterns, their crews learning to work together in ways that would have seemed impossible just a year before. The crystal cities below pulsed with new harmonies, songs that spoke of both peace and power, of protection and creation. And at the very edge of the system, automated beacons broadcast a simple message to any who might follow the path of the Void Hunters. Here stand the children of Earth and Zephyria, guardians of peace through understanding. Come to learn, and you will be welcomed. Come to destroy, and you will understand why humanity's homeworld is called a death world, not because it kills, but because it teaches the true value of life. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly as it should be.